the things we're going to be doing in these live shows is talking about like articles that we've written for our website. And Rick, we're going to be discussing one of your most recent articles, which is called "The Liverpool Parade from Celebration to Panic," about a car ramming incident that took place in Liverpool when the Liverpool fans were out celebrating the winning of the Premier League title. And there's a number of issues that this brought up, which are directly relevant to our, to our project. It being called the Class Consciousness Project. But Rick, do you want to just summarise what you wrote about there, and also tell the audience why you wanted to write about it?
Yeah, no problem at all. I don't think it's much of a secret that I do like me football, and I'm a Liverpool fan, so are my sons. And I was there at the parade. Fortunately, I was much further away from this incident. I was in another part of Liverpool. I had my very young son on my shoulders on one of those little backpacks. Carried them around due to the fact that there was no crowd control at all. We were in a part of very working class Liverpool, just by everybody knows Queen's Drive, going up to West Derby. We were there. And in that whole incident in that area, it was worrying for myself. That's why I wouldn't let my son down off my back, because you had 4 security guards, well, not security guards, 4 crowd controllers for what was several thousand people. My oldest son, he went into town, and he was around that area when the incident happened. And I won't go into the factors of the person that did it or what happened, but I will talk about, as I did in the article, how this was allowed to happen. Let's consider the fact that this is one of the biggest things that's happened in Liverpool in recent years. There was over 2 million people that came to Liverpool, that were in Liverpool and came to see the parade. They came to see the glorious LFC come down in a bus, and it was essentially something that was supposed to be a celebration. And this happened due to the fact that Liverpool Council is a very, very is under investigation for a lot of alleged allegations of corruption. They had, as most capitalists councils, as capitalism does, it hands out contracts and gets and creates capital from it. The contract for the organization of this event was to a defunct company, who essentially were just fulfilling their duties of what they booked before. So this company no longer existed. So this company, rest in peace, Diogo Jota. Yeah, I saw that, mate. Yeah, on that. Yeah. So this company here was essentially putting the minimum amount with, and you have obviously had a slight bit of policing around to look after the group of the large group of people that was there. And when after this happened, which was allowed to happen due to the fact that the car drove from a long distance to get within a crowd, from an open street to within a crowd, to the point where the incident happens. That within a decently organised event, that car would never have come to that point. Apparently, he followed an ambulance through, but if there was roadblocks to a point, then they would never be allowed to come through. And then after which, there was a large groups of people, millions of people decided to leave Liverpool, and everything collapsed. Nobody could get a train. There was local scousers offering lifts, offering board. There was hotels offering cheaper board. They were never going to give them free. There might have been free. Apologise for anyone that did. But essentially, everything collapsed. There was no real organisation, but you can't do it under capitalism because they've got to do everything for the profit. And once it becomes over the profit margin, it doesn't make sense to them. So they keep the trains as they were. No extra organisation was put in place. So this to me is something that will continue to happen. Not to say that there's going to be some person that has an accident or some person that has a problem. There's always going to be a problem with disorganisation within a system of capitalism, because they will only put profit margins first. So when you're organising, say there's a group of people out there and you've got 5 people there, 5 people to organise 5,000 people, that stops the profit margin from decreasing. And then the whole of the transport network was unreal. There was 1 million people sat outside on Lime Street waiting for the trains. This is unbelievable. Liverpool. People come to Liverpool and they see a great city because they come into the town centre and they see, oh, look at all this that's happening. But it's all for show. It's all for show. There is no real input into Liverpool to increase for the working class. It is created for profit as everything else is. And I found it appalling. It was absolutely appalling. It's heartbreaking for me because I had friends, family in the vicinity of this accident to happen. And like I say, I'm not going to go into the fact of the man. You know, that's for the so-called courts to do. But this whole incident could have been avoided due to good planning. And a planned economy, this would have been organised beautifully. This could have been a beautiful event. But due to the profit margins, due to using a defunct company, due to corrupt councils attempting to sell contracts in a way that gives them more benefits, people were hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Rick. And bringing Chris now for comment.
Yeah,
on this.
I wasn't there at the celebrations because I'm an Evertonian. But what Rick said is completely true. I don't know what the company is that went defunct, but I did a bit of work for a company called Paramount, doing stewarding, and that was at things like the Matthew Street Festival, the Liverpool Marathon. We used to work at Wigan as well, and I was not in any way trained in crowd control, and I was paid well less than the minimum wage. And I never had to deal with a situation like what happened on Water Street. But there were situations where people just demanded to get through barriers.
Mm.
And when you're completely untrained to deal with that situation, there's very little you can do.
Yeah. And that.
Sorry, go ahead. No.
Go on, Chris.
No, go ahead, Alex.
Well, I was going to say first of all, thanks to all 102 of you who are watching live. That's very good. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to follow the project on Twitter if you haven't done so already. And you can see on the screen the page from our website there. You can sign up to receive email alerts from the website. So be sure to do that as well if you haven't done so already. But to just draw on what Chris was saying, like a lot of these private companies that supposedly specialize in event management, as Chris says, they use people who are on minimum wage, a lot of whom have zero to very little training, and then toss them into an event like that where you've got hundreds of thousands of people around, all of the entire city centre, basically a sea of people. And it's like the security's done on the cheap by a company that's already gone bankrupt. I mean, the fact that was the way they chose to do it speaks volumes, and it says really a lot about how working class people are viewed, particularly working class sporting events. Like one, there was the mention of Hillsborough earlier, which again was a product of the contempt that the football authorities and the police and the state had for working class football fans, and the fact that they were prepared to lie about them immediately afterwards as well to cover the arse of the police. But it shows that really they still don't take working class people's lives seriously, those that organize these things. Because if you did, then you wouldn't have a bankrupt, dodgy company with poorly trained staff working for minimum wage, planning and organizing an event like this. You'd have it done properly, and you'd actually properly shut down the city centre, and you'd stop cars going through it, and you'd set up proper diversions, and you'd have extra trains put on, and you'd have facility for people to stay overnight if they got stuck there. None of that ever gets done, because unless it can turn a profit somewhere in the works, no one's interested in doing that. Ian, did you have any comment or?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I concur 100% with Rick's article. think it's absolutely spot on. And it just seems to me that this planning thing. I mean, why can't the public agencies be working together, the police and have some proper kind of stewards and not some Mickey Mouse private company? Well, as Chris said, probably half of them wouldn't have got no training in crowd control or anything like that. But the one thing that I know, because I know some people who went over there who took children over, and they came over from this side of the water. And afterwards, about 5 o'clock, they wanted to go back. And there was no, this was before that incident happened. They couldn't get on trains. The buses weren't running or they weren't stopping. And the ferry would be no good either, because at the moment it's only going to Seacombe, and that's the back or beyond. No one wants to go there. So there's no train station there. And if you don't know where you're going, you wouldn't know where you were. There really is nothing there. There's a nice little Greasy Spoon cafe. That's about it. But there you go. No, but they took hours and hours and hours to manage to get across on a train, get back over to the Wirral. Never mind where you're going. I mean, you would have thought they could have planned to have the transport sorted out. It just beggars belief, knowing there's going to be over 1 million people in Liverpool, and a massive chunk of a few 100,000 or more is going to be coming from over on the Wirral side, and they've got to get back home. And it's just, a total indictment of the whole of the public services and the planning, whatever level and whatever body we're talking about. The whole of them collectively should have been organising this. And never mind, without talking about the incident itself, which is appalling. I just wonder how the hell that fella managed to get a car to where he did. But I don't know. I'm not going to speak about that because I don't know. But yeah, if there's ever a case for a planned economy and a properly planned society, this makes the case perfectly.
Yeah, good points, Ian. Thanks. Back to Chris.
Just to back up what Rick and what Ian have said, there's a big problem in Liverpool, is that the people who run it basically just try and sell it all the time, literally and metaphorically. It's promoted as like a big place that people want to come and visit. So most of the investment into Liverpool comes to try and to improve things for temporary visitors, and it never comes down to actually looking after the people who live in Liverpool. And where I live, Bootle, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, is right next to Liverpool. And we've got this other problem in Liverpool or in Merseyside, where our local media, it always promotes this myth of community and of how people come together when there's a tragedy. And real class consciousness shouldn't be coming together after a tragedy. It should be coming together before one happens. It should realise why tragedies happen and how we can prevent them. So Ian was exactly right, saying this is why we need planned economics, and it's why we need proper town planning and organisation. And everyone needs to realise that we have to fight against our local representatives, because they don't believe that. Especially in Liverpool, all they want to do is market the city. They're like used car salesmen, but the used city salesmen. They just want to get as much money out of it as they can. And it never, ever benefits people from outside of the city centre, never mind the rest of Liverpool. And it doesn't benefit places like Huyton or Bootle or Birkenhead.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, Chris, which is that, and it's the same everywhere you go across the country, which is like Manchester, same bit, so wretched business model, basically turn the city into a tourist trap and just try and base the whole local economy on corporate conferences, stuff like that. And then same in Liverpool, same in like Glasgow where I am, or Edinburgh down the road. Everything's just built around like tourism and like special events, etc. There's no thought given to trying to like build up an area, rebuild industry or anything like that. Bring back Chris, and then I'll throw over to Rick for final comment on this.
Yeah, just one small thing. The other thing that Liverpool is known for worldwide is the Beatles. And in my opinion, Cast and Space are both better than the Beatles.
Oof. Chris Hawes in there with the controversial points. That's going to be the thing that will get us banned off YouTube. You know, Chris telling everybody that John Power and Tommy Scott are better than John Lennon. Rick, I will throw this live hand grenade to you, and now you can handle it.
I'm not dealing with that little bit there, to be perfectly honest. I'm not dealing with that. I'm not dealing with that. I'll deal with the other point that Chris made, which I thought was great, where people talk about the unity, the community aspect of Liverpool, where everyone comes together in times of crisis, and that is true, and that is great. It is great, but it is seen as such a good thing because day in, day out, it doesn't happen. Essentially, in I'm guessing in every city, because every town, where people only come together within a crisis. But we should be together all the time. We should be working as a class to look after ourselves, look after each other. We everybody should know by now. And we're talking about Liverpool. Everybody should know by now that we've had a Labour council for 15 years. Previous to that, we had the Lib Dems, and they don't look after us. They make mild little changes, and right now, councils are only there to implement cuts. So we shouldn't wait for governmental bodies to change and help us. You know what I mean? We shouldn't wait for to report something to your local MP to help to say, listen, this is happening here. Can you help us? He will dedicate himself to a lot of paperwork and say, right, what can I do with said amount of money? Which is it's unbelievable. So this community spirit that comes in a crisis, you know, we should essentially gather a siege mentality. And I don't mean Liverpool, I mean everywhere. I mean the whole working class should gather a siege mentality against the ruling class, because all they will ever do is try to profit from us. And Liverpool, like going back to Liverpool and Manchester as well, they create a city centre, which is good for tourists. They create a university so they can profit from ologies. They can take all these poor students to come in and put them in debt for the rest of their lives, and then remove all 4-bedroom houses so no one can get one.